everyone. In today's lecture, we'll be looking at a case study of a medical bed. So, now human computer interaction that we have been discussing is very important when it comes to the medical field as well, apart from the other applications that we have seen. And this entire life cycle of the interactive devices that are there in the healthcare, they at every stage they utilize this interaction, and we'll be taking a look at a case study where a medical bed has been studied, the controls of the bed have been studied, and how they have identified the pain points that we have discussed in one of the earlier lectures, and then how they have went ahead to redesign the panel for ease of the people who will be interacting with it. So, now this case study breaks down human computer interaction into 4 different ways. So, first is design process, so which includes our evaluation, our iterative design, all the approvals that are required, the regulatory bodies that have certain approvals to be taken from, procurement, and for this there are standards that have to be followed. The next is the industrial design stage, which includes our ergonomics and all the aspects pertaining to the design process. Then third is our interaction programming, which includes all the hidden complex interactions that are there within the system, between system and the human being who is operating it. And finally, we have the teaching and dissemination to the community. So now healthcare domain is an area which can raise very serious ethical issues, because here we are dealing with human beings, and so for that reason it can be a very tedious area to work in, because one small wrong step can lead to a lot of damage. So for that reason the accuracy becomes very important. At the same time, the devices are very expensive, so because they are very high end. So for example, fMRI, MRI, all these equipments are very expensive, and the logistics also become very important when we are considering redesign of an equipment or design of a new equipment for diagnosis. So at the same time, it is very difficult for someone who is not in the field of medicine to really understand the challenges faced by people who are working in this area, but it is very important for the medical field, including the doctors and people who are practicing medicine, to communicate their issues with the designers so that they can understand it better and then find solutions for the medical team. So now in this particular case, basic typical electric profiling of a modern hospital bed was made into an interactive web-based model, and the pain points were identified with the help of a simulation of the hospital bed control panel. So for these control panels through which we are trying to find the pain points of the personnel, or we can say stakeholders who are involved in using these panels. So 3 different types of users were identified for this. So one were nurses who are there to take feedback of the patient, give them medicines, check their vitals, and also to make sure that the patient is comfortable. The next is the attendant. Attendants play a very important role because they are usually the ones who will be bringing them meals, setting up their tray on the bed, also will be transferring the patient into say a wheelchair for taking some ultrasound or some other tests. And finally the patient itself, because patient is the one who is spending most of the time in that bed. So in this case study, these 3 users were identified and their experiences were looked into. So now here we can see in this image on the left, that figure 2, we can see that this is a simulation snapshot of the bed control panel. So the first panel is for the nurse, the second for the attendant, and the third for the patient. So A, B and C, and you may notice that the number of buttons are different on each of the panels. So for the reason for that is that each of these user groups have a very different need of interacting with this particular bed in question. Also on the other side we have figure 1, where we can see that this is the profile of the hospital bed. So we can see that how it can turn at certain angles. So there are those particular points at which, between which we can tilt the bed, and we can also see that here we have the panel where the panels are for all the three groups here for them to use. So these three control panels that we saw in the previous slide, so these were reverse engineered, and a program was written as closely to simulate the behavior of the bed as a graphical user interface in this case, and a UI discovery tool was used to obtain a state transition diagram, so which shows the different states and explains the different positions of the bed, under which condition the backrest will tilt or the knee support will tilt or become flat. So all of those transitions it tells us about, and the simulations were done to find out the human computer interaction issues that were there. So some of the pain points that were identified and analyzed, we'll discuss those quickly. So the first was that the crash of bed control software. So during certain emergency situations and conditions where CPR is to be administered by the nurse to the patient, so in those critical cases they found that the bed control software was crashing. So that of course is a very dangerous situation, because in order to revive the patient, the nurse needs to carry out certain important functions, and if the bed is not supporting them, then of course it is a big failure. The second pain point was false affordance. So we know that how important affordance is when it comes to HCI, and this in this particular case the problem was that the LED light which was there, it was not giving the right information. So the purpose of LED light is to indicate, and it was not doing its job for which it was placed in that particular place. And the third was mapping. So the mirror images of the physical bed in the control panel, so that increase the cognitive load. Now how should the bed be on the control panel? So if the mirror image is placed, or if the actual how it appears from that position, it appears to the user on the control panel, so that makes a big difference as well. And in this case they identified that the mirror image was creating a big problem, and it was increasing the workload, because the person operating then had to check, because when in the mirror we raise our right hand, we see the opposite hand being raised. So if we are tilting forward, now this control whether will it tilt the bed forward or backward, so that was very confusing for the user, and they had to think before they press the button. So especially because it's a patient, the patient could be elderly, the patient could be very frail, the patient could be hurt badly, so we don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, and so for this reason this mirror image was creating a lot of cognitive load on the user. And also the tilt button, so the confusion of course that which side the bed will tilt, that was a big point for confusion, and which led to a lot of pain to the users who were using these systems. So here we can see here in figure 8, where we are mapping the confusion with tilt button, as pivotal is at the center. So we can see that how the in the A and B diagrams we can see that it is very unclear whether the tilt is forward or backward, and then we have other buttons as well, C, D, E and F, which are saying up and down. Now which corresponds to which button, that is very unclear. So this is quite a confusing set of buttons for the user. In the other figure, figure 7, we can see that how the workload of the user is increasing. So we can see the circles, the red circles around the buttons. So they are the ones causing a lot of confusion to the user, because they are not able to map it onto the patient who is on the bed, or we can say the structure of the bed itself. So that was very confusing. So the next pain point here was the feedback. So this battery LED, it was glowing when it was functional, and then it's just stopped functioning altogether. It would just turn off when the power supply wasn't working. So there was no information on how much battery has been used. So generally when we have our devices like our phones or smartwatches, so they give us some kind of a warning. They inform us that it's time to recharge the battery. But in this particular case, there was no indication. So for that reason, when we saw that no affordance, so this is what it was referring to, this particular pain point. So now the pain point analysis was conducted. So the confusion, all the confusions that were being caused, so they were analyzed, because these are errors and we know that our device or system has to be completely error free. So when more than one person was interacting with the bed from different control panels, so then there was a lot of confusion that was getting created. And we know that in a hospital like situation, the attendants or the nurses probably will be rotated because they have shifts. So one will be in the morning, other will be at the night, and there may be several new attendants coming for different purposes. And now if all of these people are not able to understand and using the device differently, of course a lot of confusion is bound to take place. So this was leading to a lot of cognitive load, increased cognitive load. So let us take a look at this example here in figure 15. So we can see that there are two scenarios. We can see on top there is a yellow button which has a lock, and then below that we have an image which is of the bed, which is for the backrest. So this image is telling us about the interrelated buttons and how they were causing before and after. On the left we can see in the left square A and B, this is the before situation, and on the other side the after A and B is the situation after the improvement. So now we can see that in condition A, when we want to see the backrest button unlocked and this yellow stands for unlocked, we can see that how the rest of the three blue buttons, two buttons. So we can see in the before situation where the A condition where backrest button is unlocked, we can see that the yellow button is highlighted. At the same time, two of the blue buttons are also highlighted with that red dot, and only one is not highlighted. And when we see the after, we see that all the four buttons are not highlighted with the red color. So that means that none of them are functional at the moment. In situation B, when we want to say that the backrest button is locked, so here we see in the before condition that all the four buttons were highlighted with the red light, but in the after situation we see that only the button which pertains to the backrest and the button which talks about whether it is locked or unlocked, only those two are highlighted, the rest are unhighlighted. So we can see that how with the help of this simple intervention, a lot of confusion can be taken care of. Now the proposed design and validation, that was the next step after identification of these pain points, and some steps needed to be taken to ensure that this confusion and these errors were not taking place. So for this reason, there was a collaboration of the design team, the medical school, the users and manufacturers, also the human factor experts, because these principles had to be applied, also the human computer interaction experts, because these principles also needed to be explored and applied. So all of these met. So this group work took place with all of these people, and a new design was created to reduce the confusion and to lower the cognitive load on the user. So of course at the same time, some other issues pertaining to the bugs in the system, they were also fixed, and also the correct mapping of the image of the buttons on the control panel was also undertaken. So we can see here an important design proposal which was for the tilt button, because the tilt button was creating a lot of confusion because it was unclear where it is tilting. So here we can see that in A and B, these are the two options wherein A stands for and or, because the tilt is, we can see it's going up also and it's going in downward direction as well. And in the B we can see that with the help of the arrow, so that arrow also indicates to us that it can tilt both ways. This can tilt upwards also and backwards also, downwards also. So this type of suggestion, this redesign really helped in visually understanding very easily that what is the button meant for, and then the next step can be taken by the user accordingly. Now, the next intervention that was undertaken was that the attendant and the nurses control panels were combined together into a one superset control panel, and now buttons that were very crucial like CPR and lock, so they are indicated and placed away in the same panel, because these are the critical ones that will be used by the attendant and the nurse, and both of them are trained personnel. So of course the nurse conducts all of these life saving actions, but the attendant can also equally participate. So now their functions were clubbed together, and also at the same time there was a provision of alarms and feedback mechanism, so that would help the user to recognize and also diagnose and recover from errors and give them a solution, so that the error were not taking place and cognitive load was also reduced. Then in the next point we see that the good feedback for battery LED. Now we can see in the diagram as well that now this LED will glow and it will also blink. So the different stages of the LED will inform about different situation or condition of the battery life. So when the backup is not sufficient, so we will be then connecting it with the power source. So all of those different conditions are now specified, and the LED light is indicating the different situations correctly to the user. Also, to avoid the false and misleading affordances, so for example the standby symbol is made into a button in this particular case here. So some of the trends in the hospital bed. So here we see that medical beds with increased mechanical and autonomous functions, and beds changing into a wheelchair for disabled persons. So this is the need of the hospitals, and you'll notice if you have ever been to a hospital recently, at earlier there used to be a separate gurney or a trolley sort of a system to carry the patient, for example for some test, some fMRI or MRI or any other test like that. But nowadays the bed itself has wheels and the patient is wheeled in the same bed. So now the transferring of the patient from one bed to the other, that has been avoided, because sometimes it can be very painful for the patient, and also they may have to wait for their turn in front of the diagnostic room. So all of those things, now one bed is fulfilling all the functions. So also beds with embedded networking, communication and monitoring along with integrated alarms. So beds come with all of these functions as well. So they can also, like we saw that how the panel had the button for CPR as well. So they have all the integrated systems so that it acts as a mini hospital by itself. Now we have pediatric beds for children, elderly beds, bariatric beds for people who are obese, and also domiciliary beds for people who sort of are bedridden or some long treatment is going on. So these are also beds that need intervention, and a lot of designs are coming up for these particular uses, because all of these user groups have a different requirement. A child in the pediatric center has a different need than an elderly patient. So accordingly all these beds are coming up with the functions that are required. Also implementing speech recognition functions in the control panel, that is another need that has been identified. And also multi-language speech synthesis for patient caregiver communication. It's not always necessary that the same language will be understood by the patient and the caregiver. So this multi-language speech panel will also help in better communication and conveying of any discomfort or any other problem that the patient is going through. So here we can see some of the examples, some trends that are ongoing. We can see that the bed which converts into a wheelchair. We also see the bariatric bed. It is wide, it has more space, and also the pediatric bed. We can see that how it is a small bed at a certain height, because again keeping in mind the human factors, the height of the bed, the width of the bed, size, safety, all of those things need to be taken care of. You can see here in the pediatric bed how there are these vertical channels to make sure that the child doesn't fall off or the head does not get stuck within those, the balusters. Also, we can see in the bariatric bed that how the panels that are there to contain the patient, they can be folded down when required. So all of those additions that we are seeing are really helping in quick recovery also of the patient, and also for the ease of access for doctor and the patient as well. So to sum up this particular case study, we can say that some of the laws of UX by O'Reilly we can see, which says that good design principles solve real solutions or real problems and come up with real solutions. So we can see that how medical field is something which one has to visit or one has to go to a hospital. When somebody is born, they are at a hospital. When they need some assistance, some accident happens or some medical situation comes up, one has to visit the hospital. So this hospital is an integral part of the human life, because the body's hardware can malfunction anytime. So it's very important that this medical facilities are identified, the problems are identified, and proper solutions are designed for them. We all also experienced firsthand during the COVID-19 period that how the medical field suddenly was burdened because of the certain requirements that people were facing at that time. They had certain need for the ventilators and other equipment. So we can recall that how the lives dependent on these medical professionals. So finding the real problems is very important, and of course no problem is small. All problems that are real are challenging. Now as a designer, we have to do our job of first finding the problem that actually matters, because then solving it, putting in time, effort, the team collaboration, all of that should be worth it for the particular problem that we've identified. The next is that good design principles are opinionated. So there may be times when we have to take a stand for a problem. So we may not find a lot of support, and there may be people who will not have the same kind of view that we have. Or for this could be at any stage of the design process. It could be at problem identification, it could be at defining, it could be at the methodology stage, it could be at any stage where we are at. So again, it depends that how are we taking it forward. If the design team feels that yes, this is worth investing our time into and it will lead to some actual solution or will be important, then of course one will have to and should move forward. So one needs to have an opinion, of course, and there will be many opinions, but the design team has to take a stand sometimes. And finally, good design principles are memorable. So there are certain products that you will always think of. When I say that, think of a product that you enjoy using, or think of a product that you feel is a good product. So we can think of certain products from our daily lives that make our life a little bit more easy. So we also discussed in our lectures like the OXO peeler handle, that how it was an innovation in the area of material also, and also the grip that not only people with arthritis found useful, but even other healthy individuals also found a lot of use for it. So keeping these 3 points in mind, the experience of the user can be greatly enhanced, and also it becomes a very, a positive experience and a rich experience for the designer team as well. So with this, we'll end today's lecture, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you.